The focus of this video is c-betting. C-betting is an extremely important concept to understand in poker because the majority of the time you're not going to have much of a hand on the flop. I'm going to demonstrate this concept using 3 hand examples which will illustrate when to c-bet and when not to c-bet depending on the situation and your opponents. Okay, now in this hand I was dealt ace queen in middle position, which is a standard raise obviously. And I end up getting 2 other callers, and the flop comes down jack 4-5. It's a very wet board. Obviously a fair number of hands in their calling range would contain a jack, and there's a number of straight draws and flush draw possibilities, and against 2 opponents it's not a good c-bet to make once your ace queen doesn't pair up. So it's better to just check fold against 2 opponents in this spot instead of c-betting without trying to understand what you're trying to accomplish when you're very unlikely to get a fold. Okay, in this hand I was dealt ace 5 suited under the gun, which I decide to raise. And the flop comes down 2-8. It was a loose player that called pre-flop, and it's a very dry flop which very likely didn't hit my opponent. So even though I probably still have the best hand, it's just good to c-bet there and take it down the majority of the time. Okay, in this hand I was dealt queen 10 suited. And I have a player with 18-9 VPIP PFR who decides to call in the big blind, which she's likely doing with most Broadway hands, probably any ace suited hands, a fair number of hands. The flop comes down jack 3-3, so it's a fairly similar flop to the previous hand. Again, it's a fairly dry flop, there's no flush draws, and it's very likely not to have hit his range. So again, a flop continuation bet is good to do in those situations.